Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's so good to have everybody here, and today I wanted to cover one more article that I found absolutely fascinating, and that article reads, "Forget Mars, let's terraform Venus instead," which I thought was a crazy idea until I dived into the information presented in the article below, and today I'm going to share some of that information with you, which kind of makes a really good case for why we should consider Venus as our next terraforming target versus Mars. Now, anybody that has ever read a science book or read on Venus knows that Venus is an absolute catastrophe. It's a hellish dystopian landscape where the temperatures are hot enough to melt lead. And if we look at some of the information presented in the article, the average temperature on Venus is 464 degrees Celsius, 867 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt metals like lead and zinc. And the pressure is 90 times what it here is here on Earth. But there is a case for Venus being a better planet simply because a couple 100 million years ago, well, maybe a little bit more than that, but as recently as 700 million years ago, Venus wasn't like this at all. It was an environment similar to our own Earth, and it was covered by 80% of its surface by an ocean. So, relatively recent in geological terms, Venus was a planet similar to our own until massive volcanic eruptions, at least that's what's being speculated, covered the atmosphere in CO2 and turned Venus into what we see it being today. Now, the reason why Venus is favored in this article over Mars is for a couple of reasons. The first one is that Mars is inextricably cold. And in addition to being very cold, Mars has a lot of radiation and solar exposure. There's a very thin atmosphere, very weak gravity, and it has been geologically inert far longer than Earth or Venus. And changing that would cost an immense amount of resources versus trying to change that with Venus, which has experienced its climate change or its changes relatively recently. So in Mars, you don't have the resources present to take the planet back to what it used to be 1 billion or 2 billion years ago where it had flowing water, because most of that has been stripped away. Whereas with Venus, it is still contained in a very dense atmosphere. And the another point that was made here that I thought was very interesting and very important was that Venus actually orbits much closer to the Earth, making it much cheaper to send rockets or materials for this terraforming purposes. An article really breaks it down into three main points of what needs to be done. And so let me scroll down here. So what you really have to do to terraform Venus, and this isn't no simple task because we can't even terraform our own planet, let alone another body. But when comparing Mars and Venus, one really has to wonder what would be easier and what would create environments similar to our own Earth. Now, Venus has all the ingredients present, except they're trapped in the upper atmospheres where they create immense pressure and immense heat, but the ingredients are all there. Whereas with Mars, you don't have any of the ingredients, and you have to bring them back here from Earth to Mars, which adds increased cost. But with Venus, you could potentially reverse the effect of the climate change that has occurred. And if you could do that, and you can prove that you could do that, that means you can mitigate the same issues here on the planet. However, the advancement in that science would have to take time to get to a point where we could do so. But what do we got to do? Reduce the atmospheric pressure, lower the temperature, convert the atmosphere into something breathable. Now, that sounds easier said than done, but it is something that could be done, and there are several solutions that have been proposed. One idea was to flood Venus's atmosphere with refined magnesium and calcium, put forward by planetary physicist Mark Bullock and astrobiologist David H. Grinspoon, hope I'm pronounced right. In the following paper, the stability of climate in Venus, that they ventured that would sequester carbon dioxide in a form of calcium and magnesium carbonates, which is said carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that traps heat inside out of a planet's surface, and that it creates the effect. Another one was that I thought was kind of interesting, to create a dense canopy of space clouds, which is kind of an interesting idea. I didn't really quite understand it as much. Sounds very science fiction. Using solar shades to, as I said, block out some of the sunlight coming in. So one idea is to, like I said here, to affect the atmosphere. The other one is just to prevent the sunlight to artificially cool the planet, which is said would take resources and energy on a scale that is just unfathomably large, both of these solutions. But relative to bringing an entire atmosphere on Mars, this could be a much better alternative, because I said Mars to me would look like a series of bubbles and domes and all across that. But anyway, I'm going to link this article for your viewing and reading pleasure down below. Please let me know what you think. Do you think that this is a better alternative to Mars? Because I said media is all focused on Mars, 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 Mars. But like I said, we have 2 planets. One that's closer to us that makes it easier to travel to, but it's hot. We can't get on the surface. We can't do anything, but we can terraform potentially the atmosphere of that planet and convert the resources that are already there. Or we can try to find a way to bring resources to a planet like Mars, or even our own celestial neighbor like the moon, which could be much harder. I mean, it really matters. And the beauty of all of this that I find that's very interesting is, one, right now it's very hypothetical, but the other one is it's very risk-free to try these ideas out. Should we get to a point in our society where space travel and the energy and the engines that we have that would allow us to break Earth's atmosphere to do this, terraforming Venus is almost a risk-free venture because, like I said, it's unusable in any sort of state for humanity now. But in the future, you could terraform it and have all the ingredients right there to build an oceanic, breathable world. And as I said, it's all right there. The atmosphere wasn't stripped by solar winds like it was on Mars. And as I said, Mars could be a more expensive venture because, as I said, like a lot of this has to do with the way planets rotate around the sun. And the distances between Earth and Mars only align for very short windows of time, whereas we are much closer to Venus in that scenario, and we can send aircraft there much sooner. So if we could develop a formula or something else that could affect the atmosphere or change the composition, we could see on Venus, actually, I think, a more Earth-like world in Venus before we could see it on Mars, which I thought this was just an absolute idea. I didn't even really think about it. So, interesting article. I'll link it down below. And yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think, are you on Team Venus or Team Mars? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, thank you for listening in. I said always stay curious, stay interested. I love all of you. Please let me know what you think about my videos. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I try to put something out every single day talking about space and science and all these cool things. So again, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. I'll talk to you later.